Do you really think that the most intelligent people say everything they think, show everything they feel, and tell everything they are planning? If you believe that, you might be playing the game of life by the wrong rules and paying a price you don't even realize. There's an uncomfortable truth that few dare to admit. The more you reveal, the more vulnerable you become. And no, it's not because people are bad. It's because human nature works that way. Interests, emotions, ego, competition, all of that comes into play, even in the closest relationships. Machiavelli already said that those who see the world as it really is and not as it should be have a silent advantage over others. And that advantage begins with controlling what you choose not to reveal. Perhaps you've experienced this firsthand. A plan you shared that never came to fruition. An insecurity that turned into criticism during a conflict. A past mistake that came back to haunt you when you least expected it. Or even that strange feeling that, after you revealed too much, something changed in the way you were treated. What if the problem wasn't what you did, but what you revealed? In this video, you'll understand the 5 things that the smartest people never reveal. Not to friends, not to family, not to anyone who seems trustworthy. Not out of coldness, but out of strategy. Because in the end, the one who dominates the game isn't the one who talks the most. It's the one who knows exactly what should remain silent. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul, an invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now, not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. He learned early on, not from books, but by observing life, that talking too much about what you intend to do is like revealing your plans before the game even starts. It seems harmless, even intelligent, but in practice, it drains something invisible, the energy for execution. When someone announces their plans, they receive immediate validation, praise, encouragement, curiosity, and this deceives the brain, which begins to act as if part of the mission has already been accomplished. This is where many stop without realizing it. Machiavelli already warned, decisions should be based on real human nature, not on ideals, and human nature loves easy recognition. That's why those who play at the highest level practice strategic silence. They understand that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires restraint. Instead of saying, "I'm going to start a business," they start. Instead of posting "new project coming soon," they build in the dark. A simple example, someone decides to learn English. Instead of telling everyone, they change their routine, download an app, start classes, and only talk about it when they are already speaking fluently. This completely changes the game, because the focus shifts from seeming to be to becoming, and ultimately, that's what separates those who execute from those who only dream. Now there's something even more subtle. When you talk about your plans, you expose your idea to premature judgment, and people, even unintentionally, project their own fears onto you. Will it work? Has anyone tried this before? Isn't it too risky? Phrases like these sound like advice, but they carry doubt. And doubt, in its initial stage, is poison. Machiavelli spoke about the appearance of virtue, and here's where something powerful comes in. Not everyone needs to understand what you're building. In fact, the fewer people who know, the better you protect your virtue and fortune. Think of someone who wants to change careers. If they speak before they're ready, they might hear criticism that doesn't even make sense, but that shakes their confidence. Now, if they prepare in silence, study, position themselves, when they reveal it, it's no longer a plan, it's a fact. And facts are much harder to contest. The calculated use of force here isn't aggression, but strategy, conserving energy, protecting your vision, and acting at the right time. Because, in the end, the world respects results, not intentions. And there's a third point that almost no one realizes. By revealing your plans too early, you also give others time to move against you, consciously or unconsciously. It could be someone copying your idea, someone taking up space before you, or even someone subtly demotivating you. In competitive environments, this is even more evident. Those who understand Machiavelli know that it's better to be feared than loved, but always avoid being hated, and that includes not unnecessarily revealing your cards. The modern strategist isn't paranoid, but is attentive. They know that constant adaptability requires discretion. A practical example: someone wants to launch a digital product. Instead of announcing it from the beginning, they test, validate, adjust, and only appear when they already have something solid. This reduces risks and increases impact, because surprise is also a form of power. And curiously, when you master this silence, you begin to realize something else. It's not just about what you shouldn't talk about. It's about what you shouldn't show, especially when it involves something even more sensitive, your financial reality. He understood over time, and sometimes the hard way, that money doesn't just change what you can do. It mainly changes how people see you. Revealing your true financial situation is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, everything changes. Those who previously treated you one way begin to act another, and it's not always explicit. Sometimes it's subtle, but constant. Machiavelli already said that human relationships are guided by hidden interests, and whoever ignores this is playing a game they don't understand. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, demands that you recognize this without naivete. When someone discovers you have money, they begin to see you as a resource, a solution, an opportunity, a means. And this can even distort long-standing relationships. A friend who starts suggesting strange business deals, a relative who shows up with ideas, someone who changes the tone of the conversation. It's not about pure malice, it's about real human nature. That's why the most strategic people learn early on. You don't talk about money, you manage it. Because the value isn't in showing how much you have, but in what you can build with it. Now, there's an even greater danger. When you reveal that you have little, that changes everything, because in that case, you might be underestimated, ignored, or even disrespected. And here comes a silent principle of Machiavelli. The appearance of virtue and power is often worth more than reality itself. It doesn't mean lying or pretending to be wealthy, but understanding that unnecessary exposure can put you at a disadvantage. Imagine someone starting a business. If they demonstrate too much financial insecurity, they might lose opportunities, negotiations, or even partnerships. Now, if they maintain a firm stance, communicate value, and play intelligently, they create a perception of stability, even if they are still building. That's virtù and fortuna in action. The ability to strategically position oneself in the face of circumstances. A practical example? In negotiations, never reveal your real financial limit. Always work with a margin, with room, with a strategy. Because whoever shows all their cards loses the advantage, and whoever understands this begins to realize that money isn't just a resource, it's also a narrative. And perhaps the most delicate point is this. When you talk about money, you activate emotions in people: envy, admiration, comparison, resentment. And these emotions are unpredictable. Machiavelli advocated the calculated use of force, and here the force is silence, because silence protects. It avoids unnecessary conflicts, protects your freedom, and keeps you in control of your own story. Think of someone who starts earning well. If they constantly flaunt it, they may attract demands, judgments, or even isolation. Now, if they maintain discretion, they can grow more easily and with less external interference. It's like playing chess. Not every move needs to be announced. Some need to be made and only noticed afterward. And when you begin to master this, you realize that it's not just money that needs to be protected. There's something even more vulnerable, something that, if exposed in the wrong way, can be used against you with much more force: your deepest insecurities. He realized after some unplanned disappointments that vulnerability without discernment isn't connection, it's exposure. There's a silent and dangerous difference between opening up wisely and emotionally baring yourself to someone who hasn't yet proven their loyalty. Human nature, as Machiavelli taught, isn't guided solely by empathy, but also by self-interest, pride, and, in moments of conflict, even revenge. And this is where many go wrong. They believe that sharing their insecurities creates unbreakable bonds. Sometimes it does, but other times it provides ammunition. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, demands that you understand this without romanticizing relationships. What you reveal in a moment of intimacy can later appear as criticism, irony, or attack. Not because the person was always bad, but because, under pressure, people use what they have. And if you've handed over your weaknesses on a silver platter, don't be surprised when they're used. That's why the most strategic learn to filter. Not everything is for everyone. Now, this doesn't mean shutting yourself off completely or living in constant distrust of everyone. On the contrary, it means developing strategic emotional intelligence. Machiavelli spoke of virtù and fortuna, and here, virtù lies in the ability to choose well who you open up to. It's not about never trusting, but about trusting gradually, testing consistency, character, and behavior over time. A simple example: someone shares their biggest professional insecurity with a colleague they barely know. Weeks later, this information appears distorted in another conversation. Now imagine the opposite. This same person chooses a mentor, someone who has already demonstrated ethics and shares their difficulties there. The result is guidance, growth, protection. Do you see the difference? The problem was never vulnerability itself, but where it was placed. Because vulnerability, when well directed, is strength. When poorly positioned, it becomes exploitable weakness. And that's exactly why the calculated use of force also applies to what you feel. Not everything needs to be exposed, especially in the heat of the moment. And there's an even deeper detail. Often, people use your insecurities against you not directly, but subtly. Small comments, irony, comparisons, nothing explicit, but enough to destabilize you. And those who aren't prepared react emotionally, lose control, and end up reinforcing their own weakness. This is where an essential principle comes in. It's better to be feared than loved, but always avoid being hated. In other words, you don't need to become cold or inaccessible, but you need to be respected. And respect is born from clear boundaries. If someone crosses a line, you don't need to explode, but you also can't ignore it. Adjust, reposition, observe, constant adaptability. Because in the end, the one who masters the emotional game isn't the one who never feels. It's the one who knows what to do with what they feel. And when you begin to understand this, you realize that it's not just your insecurities that need filtering. There's something even more delicate that easily slips through and creates silent enemies without you realizing it. what you think and say about other people. He learned, almost always too late, that opinion is like smoke. Eventually it finds a crack and escapes. And when it escapes, it never arrives intact. It arrives distorted, amplified, laden with intentions that weren't even its own. Speaking your mind about someone may seem harmless, even necessary at times, but in practice, it's one of the greatest creators of silent enemies. Machiavelli already made it clear, decisions should be based on real human nature, and the reality is simple. People are easily offended, even when they shouldn't be. Politics, guided by reality, not by ideals, demands that you understand this without naivete. That criticism made just between us rarely stays there. It circulates, gains new versions, reaches its final destination with more weight than it had at the origin. And when it arrives, you no longer control anything. Therefore, those who play intelligently learn to filter not only what they feel, but especially what they verbalize. Because in the social game, words are weapons, and weapons, once fired, don't come back. Now, this doesn't mean living in absolute silence or never expressing an opinion. The point here is strategy. It's about knowing when, how, and with whom to speak. Machiavelli spoke about the appearance of virtue, and this includes appearing balanced, thoughtful, and trustworthy. People who constantly speak ill of others may seem sincere, but in reality, they convey instability. Because those who listen think, if he speaks like that about others, he'll speak like that about me too. And then you lose something invisible, but extremely valuable: credibility. A practical example: in a work environment, someone criticizes a colleague to another. It may even seem like alignment, but deep down it sows distrust on all sides. Now compare that to someone who listens, observes, but doesn't engage in unnecessary comments. This person builds an image of control, maturity, and respect. That's virtu and fortuna in action. Knowing how to position yourself strategically without exposing yourself more than necessary, because in the end, those who talk too much about others reveal more about themselves than they imagine. And there's an even more dangerous point: emotional opinions. Though said in the heat of the moment, irritation, frustration, envy, these are the most destructive because they carry intensity, and intensity spreads quickly. Machiavelli taught the calculated use of force, and here the force lies in holding your tongue when emotion wants to accelerate. A simple and powerful exercise: whenever you feel like saying something negative about someone, wait. Let the impulse pass. Often, what seemed urgent completely loses its meaning after a few hours. This is constant adaptability, adjusting behavior before it generates consequences, because deep down, the goal isn't to seem perfect. It's to avoid being hated. And few things generate more hatred than someone who spreads opinions uncontrollably. When you master this, you begin to notice a pattern. It's not just about what you say, it's about what you reveal. And there's a type of revelation that, unlike others, creates a permanent lever in another person's hands. Something that, once given, can never be taken back: your past mistakes and sins. He discovered, not through theory, but through experience, that the momentary relief of confessing a mistake can cost permanent control over one's own history. There's a dangerous illusion that opening everything up liberates, but in practice, it often imprisons. Machiavelli already understood something few accept: people don't forget what can be useful against you. Politics, guided by reality, not ideals, demands that you face this with maturity. When you reveal your past mistakes, especially those involving moral failings, bad decisions, or moments of weakness, you give away more than information. You give away a lever. And that lever can remain hidden for years, silent, until someone decides to use it. It's not about living in hiding, but about understanding that not every truth needs to be shared with everyone. The strategist doesn't lie. He selects, because he knows that in the game of life, information is also power, and poorly distributed power becomes vulnerability. Now, there's a detail that few realize. People don't only use your mistakes against you in moments of direct conflict. Sometimes they use them subtly, almost imperceptibly. Small, indirect comments, changes in posture, loss of respect, all of this can arise from something you revealed, believing you were in a safe environment. Machiavelli spoke about the appearance of virtue, and this doesn't mean pretending to be perfect, but understanding that the perception others have of you directly influences how you will be treated. A practical example: someone tells an acquaintance about past financial mistakes. Months later, in a business opportunity, that same person is seen as risky or unstable, even though they have completely changed. Do you see the impact? The past, when poorly exposed, continues to operate in the present. Therefore, those who understand virtù and fortuna learn to reconstruct their narrative without giving away all the pieces. They correct, evolve, improve, but they don't freely distribute the weakest chapters of their story. And perhaps the most important point is this: you shouldn't carry eternal guilt for your mistakes, but you also don't need to use them as a bargaining chip with anyone. There's a difference between taking responsibility and exposing yourself without strategy. The calculated use of force here is internal. It's knowing when to speak, to whom to speak, and how far to go. In the right contexts, such as therapy, mentoring, or extremely consolidated relationships, revealing certain points can generate growth. But outside of that, it's a risk. Because in the end, the world doesn't reward those who expose themselves too much. It tests them, and those who aren't prepared pay the price. It's better to be feared than loved, but always avoid being hated. And few things generate more judgment than misinterpreted mistakes. When you understand this, you begin to protect your story more intelligently, and then you realize something even more strategic. It's not just what you were that needs to be protected. It's primarily the magnitude of what you still intend to become. Something that, if revealed too early, can be sabotaged before it's even born. The true extent of your ambition. He realized that ambition, when exposed too early, ceases to be a strength and becomes a target. There's something almost instinctive in people. When someone reveals the magnitude of what they want to build, judgments, comparisons, and above all, expectations automatically arise. And expectation is a silent trap. Machiavelli already taught that decisions should be based on real human nature. And the reality is that few people can handle the greatness of others well, especially when it's still in its initial stages. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires you to understand this without romanticizing it. When you say, "I'm going to build something big, I'm going to make a lot of money, I'm going to stand out from the crowd," you're not just sharing a goal, you're giving people an invisible deadline to judge you. And worse, you're providing fuel for them to discourage you, sometimes with irony, sometimes with realistic advice, sometimes with that classic, "Let's see if you can really do it." And this kind of energy, if absorbed, corrodes. Therefore, those who truly think big learn to keep their ambitions secret like a project, not out of fear, but as a strategy. Now there's a second, even more subtle risk. When you reveal your ambition, you enter a game of external validation. And that's one of the most dangerous games there is, because from that moment on, you start acting not only for the objective, but for the need to prove something. Machiavelli spoke about the appearance of virtue, and here's a crucial point. Those who need to prove too much lose control of their own path. A practical example: someone decides they want to achieve financial freedom. If they keep this to themselves and work quietly, Every decision is guided by strategy. Now, if they announce this to everyone, they start to feel pressure. They need to show results, justify choices, explain delays. And this diverts their focus. Instead of building, they start to react. And reacting is the opposite of leading one's own life. Virtù et fortuna here lies in acting consistently, regardless of external applause or doubt. Because in the end, the world doesn't need to know the size of your ambition. It will realize it when it becomes a reality. And perhaps the most strategic point is this: great movements happen in silence. The calculated use of force isn't about shouting your intentions, but about surprising with your results. Those who master this understand that impact comes from contrast. No one expects much from someone who doesn't talk too much, and that's exactly where the power lies. It's better to be feared than loved, but always avoid being hated. And one way to do that is to avoid activating envy, competition, or unnecessary resistance prematurely. Think of the great movements in your life as an invisible construction. While everyone is looking at what's visible, you're strengthening the foundation. Constant adaptability, adjusting, testing, evolving without an audience. And when it finally appears, it will no longer be a plan. It will be an undeniable fact. And that's exactly what differentiates those who only dream from those who truly build. Because in the end, it's not about hiding out of fear. It's about protecting through intelligence. Now let me ask you a direct and perhaps uncomfortable question. How many times have you exposed yourself more than you should have, thinking you were being authentic, when in reality, you were just being naive? Because the truth is simple and harsh. The world doesn't reward those who reveal everything. It tests, it observes, it reacts. You don't need to become cold, distant, or closed off, but you do need to become strategic. You need to understand that not every thought needs to become a word. Not every emotion needs to become a confession. Not every plan needs to become an announcement. There is power in silence. There is intelligence in discretion. There is growth in acting without needing to prove anything to anyone. So now, stop and think honestly. What have you revealed that you should be protecting? Who truly deserves access to your vulnerabilities? Are you building in silence or seeking validation prematurely? Because in the end, whoever masters this game starts to live differently, with more control, more clarity, and less external interference. And that changes everything. If this content made sense to you, and I know that on some level it did, then you already know what to do now. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, because here you won't find pretty phrases. You'll find truths that few have the courage to say, but that, when you understand them, completely change the way you play the game of life.